my fellow comic book collectors, it's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and these are your questions answered for this week. Each week I get people to ask me questions, and the week after I answer the questions. So if you have a question you want answered, put it in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer it. Some of the questions are more difficult than others to find the answers to, but we're going to get in some pretty cool questions, and I'm going to show some pretty cool stuff as well. The first question comes from my good friend Steven, Step05, Collecto6. He has like man of many names. But Steven asked, Alan, the Katzenjammer Kids were a popular comic strip of the 1930s. Hans Fritz, the captain, Momma were the characters in the strip. King Features were the owners of these characters. At some point the title changed to Captain and the Kids. Which title came first? Katzenjammer Kids or Captain and the Kids? When and how long were both of these titles used? When did each start and when and stop? Okay, now this is actually an interesting story. It's not quite that one title took over the other title. It's a little bit more complex than that. The Katzenjammer Kids was an American comic strip created by Rudolph Dirks. Dirks, in 1897, and was later drawn by Howard Kern, or Nern, I think it would be Nern, and Knerr, so Nern maybe, for 35 years. And Nern, he drew it from 1914 to 1949. Now, it originally debuted in December 12th of 1897, and it was an American humorist. In the American Humorist, the Sunday supplement of William Randolph Hearst's The New Yorker Journal. After a series of legal battles, though, in 1912 to 1914, Dirks left Hearst's organization and began a new comic strip. He first titled it Hans and Fritz, and then later called it Captain and the Kids. So Katzenjammer and Captain and the Kids, or Hans and Fritz, were two separate titles. Same characters, two separate titles. That's the thing here. So it featured the same characters as the Katzenjammer Kids, which was continued by Nern, and the two separate versions of the strip competed with each other until 1979, when Captain and the Kids ended its 6-decade run, and Katzenjammer still went on past that until 2006. So basically, whenever you think of Captain and the Kids, it's a separate title than Katzenjammer Kids. They're two separate things. Same characters, just competing. It's like, I don't know, it's like this weird, Mexican Spider-Man story, kind of where they just were using the same characters, but two different creators. It's one of those weird things. So Katzenjammer, by the way, translates literally to the wailing of cats, or Katterwall in German. However, this is also used as to mean a condition after one has kind of had a hangover, drank too much, and then they have like a Katzenjammer, which is a hangover in German. So it's a very odd name, but very interesting story. So Katzenjammer Kids, that's the story behind it. Now, probably everyone else that didn't ask this question is wondering why. Why did we talk about this? Why did he even ask this question? Well, Stephen and I were talking about a book that I got when I was a kid. And this was a book, my first major comic that I actually ever got in my collection. And it's Captain and the Kids, #1. This is the very first book that was published with Captain and the Kids. And you see Hans and Fritz there. and the captain. You also see right here, this brown goo. That is hot chocolate. And when I was a kid, I didn't really understand the value of comics. I was young. I was like really young. And I didn't want to damage my countertop on my on my bedside table. So I put the hot chocolate cup onto this book rather than having it damage my bedside table. My mom always was like, you gotta put a coaster under it. And I remember that, but I wish I had not done that in this case. It's kind of a shame. But definitely a very important book. This was given to me by my grandmother. It's yeah, it is one of those things. I feel bad for having done that. Now, the interesting thing about Katzenjammer Kids is it was not actually, so the one that owned Captain and the Kids was King Features Syndicate, which was originally created in 1914. So Katzenjammer Kids is actually older than King Features Syndicate. That's another thing to know about this. Adds another layer to the whole story. So it's just a very complicated story, but I hope that answers your question. Hopefully it gives you a little bit more insight to the characters. The next question was from MJ Chick, who wrote, how do you keep track of your comics? Some sort of inventory program. Now, I get this question a lot because it's like I get all these comics and people wonder, how do you keep track of them all? There's a few things that I do. And actually, one tool that I used to use is not available anymore, and it really drives me nuts. If anyone knows, I'm actually going to ask you guys a question. If anyone knows how to do this, I'd greatly appreciate it. Right, I used to be able to do, there's a tool that used to exist that would allow you to download all your eBay purchases. It was like a plugin for Firefox. It would allow you to download all your eBay purchases so you could have it like in an Excel document. It doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't work anymore. eBay blocked it. So I'm wondering, how do you download all your past purchases from eBay? That'd be great to know. I'd love to, anyone that can answer that question, I'd appreciate it. But what I generally do is I use cover price as the means to track my collection. Now, I'm incredibly overwhelmed with my life in general, and I never get around to actually doing enough inventory of my collection. So I haven't actually kept up with it. So I've put about 1,000 books into cover price. I have another 20, 30,000 more to go. I just haven't kept up with it. So it is like a portion of my collection is in there. I've actually, what I did was I was using the ones that I had bought from my comic shop. I was just going through those because those were, and then doing the bigger books that were in my collection because I figured get at least the important ones in the cover price app. But there's just so much that I haven't inventoried. But the main way that I actually was tracking stuff was I was downloading from my comic shop and from Heritage Auctions, from all the different online places that I had bought books, and also downloading it from eBay in the past when it worked, and then putting it all in an Excel document. So I do have a pretty extensive tracking of how much I paid, when I bought the books, what grade the books are, the title of the books, all that kind of stuff in a spreadsheet. So I'm trying to get that now into Cover Price or some other app. I just have to find the time to do it. It's been challenging. I haven't really gotten around to it, but that's how I've been doing it. It's not the greatest method. Next question comes from Ralph Patterson. Patterson. Hi, Alan. You've mentioned your Warren collection. Your Warren collection, even shown a pile of boxes behind one of the doors in your comics room. Any chance to do a video or videos covering the collection? I really do plan to get around to that. I actually want to do a thing where I do a video series and just go through the entire collection. It's about 8,000 books in my Warren collection, maybe even more than that. It's a lot of books. So I haven't really gotten around to it. But I have brought something, and I'll show you the top of it. I brought this box. It's like, this is how I organize things. It's like so crazy. What does it say? It says Heidi, Corbin, House of Horror, Spacemen, Blazing Combat, Dracula, Help, and Warren Presents. So this is the box with all of those things in it. I'm going to show you some of the stuff in this box, and I'm going to show up some stuff. You're going to get to see some stuff. Now, I'm going to show you actually a book that is not Warren. This is not a Warren book. It's just in the same box. But it is actually something that's fairly cool and fairly hard to find. I don't know how much this is even worth because it's very obscure. This is Help number 27. Now, if you know anything about Warren Publishing, Help was a short-lived run in Warren. It lasted only into the 60s. It didn't get even into the 70s. It was basically their way of combating, or not combating, but being a different variant of Mad magazine. And very similar kind of stuff, more adult though than Mad. And was actually started by Harvey Kurtzman, who worked for Mad. So, you know, that gives you some understanding of why Help was around. It ran 26 issues. However, there was a group who wanted to revive it. And this is from the 90s, and they basically created Help 27, and that's what this is. It's sort of like Vampirella, how there's 113 issues. Well, Warren only lasted 112, and Harris Comics went and created the 13th issue. So this is Help number 27. Okay, so the next thing in this box, it's like a lot of stuff in this box, is my Famous Monsters of Filmland, like official fan club membership card, and it's signed by Dr. Acula, which is Dracula, which is what Forrest J. Ackerman would call himself. He would always, that would be his sort of alias. And then we got a piece of cardboard. I don't know why. Another thing that's in the same box is my Spooky fanzine. Actually, I knew the writer, the creator of Spooky, and I actually contributed to a few of the things, that the facts and stuff inside. I think actually the picture of the Heidi Saha is from my collection. So this is my Heidi Saha picture, I believe it is. Did he mention me in this one? So yeah, this was a fanzine, came from the 90s. Yeah, Spooky. And then we got, what else we got here? We got something, this was from another one, Forrest J. Ackerman fan club. And this actually I bought this from Forrest J. Ackerman. It's another fan club card. And I think there's even a note. No. Okay, so that's, yeah. So fan club card, it came with a little note, but not really. Then we have my Eerie fan card. So I have all the fan cards. I have the Vampirella ones are in the Vampirella box, but there's the Eerie one. And then we have the Eerie patch. I paid $25 for this way back in the day. And then it also has the Creepy fan card. So that's all the different fan cards. The Vampirella one I didn't show, but so those are all the different fan cards. And then we got my Dracula Dirt. I have like 3 of these. Dracula Dirt pendant. Let's see, certificate of authenticity. Signed by James Warren. This is real Dracula Dirt. And then we have probably the rarest of the Warren Publishing. This is absolutely one of the hardest books to find. Is an illustrated history of Heidi Saha. Got Heidi Saha on the back. The girl that actually was Heidi Saha. And that's her in costume. She was she was a girl that would go to the different comic conventions and always wear skimpily clad attire. She would dress up like as Sheena or Vampirella or whatever, and she would sort of hang out with James Warren and Forrest J. Ackerman, and this was one of the outfits that she would wear. Very interesting person from that era. And then we have a flyer. This is from 1974. This is the flyer promoting the Famous Monsters convention from 1974. I think a lot of these I actually bought from Forrest J. Ackerman directly. So that's a flyer. What else? These are all the things that are just on the top of the box. This is not even in the box. We haven't even gotten in the box yet. And then we got, this one was signed by Ackerman. So this is House of Horror. Now this is one of those books that you had to, like Heidi Saha as well, you had to special order. And so they only printed like a few hundred. I think they only printed 300 of this. And I think similar to the Heidi Saha, a couple hundred to maybe 500 max. They didn't print many of these. So this is quite a hard one to find as well. House of Horror #1. There was only one issue actually. And, it says 400 printed. 400 printed, it even says. Have a little note to myself. So, very hard book to find. Yeah, it's another one. Okay, now I'm going to show you what's in the box, the actual box. Those were just things that were on top of the box. We got Dracula. This is features a lot of the Spanish artists. It's kind of an interesting, very large book, large format book. And I gotta find a place to put all these things. Okay. One sec here. Okay, there we go. I'll put these down here. And I'll take out some more stuff to show you guys. This was another hard book to find. This is the Odd Comic World of Richard Corbin. And I really liked Richard Corbin's art. He was one of the first artists that actually tried to get various comics or magazines with his artwork. I really liked his stuff. I deliberately focus on buying his stuff because I really liked it. One sec here. I'm gonna move things around so that I don't bury stuff. Okay, one sec. And I'll take out some more of the magazines. Oh, okay. This is a cool little series. So I'm going to show you like not everything in this box. There's just too much in one box, but there's some Comic International, some more. So this is some more Corbin stuff. So let's take that so it's in order. And then we got Comics International #4. I don't know why it's out of order, but then we have Comics International #3. So I have every Warren there's ever been. So, and we have Comics International #2. And these are all with Richard Corbin's art. And then #5. So that's the whole series of Comics International. And one second, I'm just going to sort these a little bit here. There. And what else? Don't be annoying. Okay, there we go. Okay. And we grab some more. Oh, okay. And now we're getting into some rarer books. Okay, this is actually my help section as well. Okay, so okay, I'm gonna put those back. And we get into Freak Out USA. So Warren was actually very dynamic in terms of the books that they tried to publish. As I mentioned before, Help was trying to target Mad. There was a bunch of teen magazines that were really, really hot in the 60s. Really, really popular stuff. Warren thought, hey, we could do that too. So they created their version of a teen girl magazine or popular teen kind of stuff. And they created a thing called Freak Out USA. And it ran a few issues. And it, had monkeys, the Fugues, the Mothers, you know, different popular bands, and they were trying to be cool and hip with all the kids, right? So that's Freak Out USA. I believe this is number 1. And then we have another one, same idea, Teen Love Stories. And this is Teen Love Stories. What issue number is this? Number 1. This is number 1. Then we got Teen Love Stories number 2. And they, you know, they're trying to be really kind of stylish and cool and appeal to girls. They didn't really work. They just didn't have it. It wasn't their thing. You know, they know monsters. They know, you know, horror, but they really weren't good at connecting with hip young kids. And then we got Teen Love Stories number 3. It only lasted 3 issues. This is from 1968. But yeah, it didn't really go very far. Another series that didn't really last, but it's the one that actually got them started, and I have it in here as well, is Adult Magazine. So originally when Warren first started, he wanted to compete with Playboy. That was his objective. And he created a magazine called After Hours. And here's After Hours number 1. And you can tell, like, I don't know why they did it so drabby. Like, they look so drab. The color palette and stuff, I don't know. It just wasn't really eye-catching. And they you know, if you look at early Playboys, they were much more fun and dynamic. And After Hours really didn't catch one's eye. These are from like the 1950s. So this would be 1957. Then we have After Hours number 2. One sec here. Let's see if I can show this a bit better. After Hours number 2. And you can see they would have like photos, and there would be nudes inside as well, because it was an adult magazine. And After Hours number 3. Now those first 3 issues actually aren't that valuable. Even though they're the early Warren first issues, like that's actually the first 3 issues of any Warren publishing. But this one, this 4th issue is the big one. This is After Hours number 4. And it was really After Hours number 4 that made Warren Warren. So what happened was, in this, it's an adult, still like trying to compete with Playboy. But what they did was they had a section that was all about monsters. And because it was James Warren and Forrest J. Ackerman. And Forrest J. Ackerman was a true geek. He loved sci-fi, he loved horror movies, and he wanted to just experiment. And he had like a little section inside where he showed Warren, like showed famous monster stuff. So, and he put all these monster pictures and stuff like that, and people loved it. They loved it. They loved it so much that people wrote to them and say, hey, you should do more of that monster stuff. We don't like that nude stuff, but the monsters those are cool. And so they realized that they weren't going to go anywhere with After Hours stuff, and they stopped after issue number 4 and went fully on with monsters, and we get Famous Monsters of Filmland, which was really the flagship for the Warren publishing industry. So just you know, this book is the one that really got Warren started. So those are some of the ones in here. And then there's just, like, this is my more obscure box, like all my obscure stuff for Warren. So we got Horror of Party Beach. They would do all these, like, one-shots where they would, like, talk about different movies that had just come out. So Horror of Party Beach. And then we got The Curse of Frankenstein. They really liked Hammer films, and this would be one of the Hammer films. So yeah, Horror of Dracula. So yeah, this Scream, yes, greatest double creature show, both in a all new photo story magazine. So this is Famous Films number 2. I believe this is Famous Films number 1. though they, they sort of just randomly name things sometimes, where, it's kind of weird how they came up with some of the naming conventions. Okay, so the next thing, I don't know why this was in the wrong order, but here's another Freak Out USA. This is Freak Out USA number 1, I believe. These ones are hard to find, but, and then we got a whole bunch of help. So we got help number 24, and we got help number 25. And as I said, these were really mimicking Mad Magazine. Help number 26, which is the last issue. And I forgot what issue number this is. This is the Help 23, I believe, anniversary issue. And this issue, this next one, is really important. This is Help number 23. Now, this is the Beatles cover where they're all bald, but that's not actually the key thing about this book. This is actually the first appearance of Fritz the cat in any printed format. So, first appearance of Fritz the cat. So, and you'll notice I have Fritz the cat behind me too. But this is where Fritz the cat made his first appearance. So, Help number 23, the Beatles issue, if you ever were looking for it. So, just a cool one. I'm not going to show the whole Help run because there's too many of them. But let me just grab some more. One sec here. Okay, I will show issue number 1 at least. This is Help. This is Help number 1. Yeah, it's kind of a cool cover. It's Caesar, and then let's see. And we'll show some Spaceman. I'll just flip through these pretty quick. Spaceman number 4, number 5. I think this should be number 6 with the Rocketeer. This is actually the character that inspired the Rocketeer. I forget what his name is. I should know. One sec here. Oh my goodness, what's his name? Everyone's gonna. I even watched the serial. Jeez. I'm trying to remember his name. But he's the one that's inspired the Rocketeer, that Dave Stevens character. But very major character, actually. And then we got number 7. It's in pretty beat up shape, but I have number 7. And number 8. And what else? Let's grab some more. Okay, I'm messing up my order of my magazines. Okay, then we have a really cool one. This is the Spaceman Yearbook. And this is Spaceman number 1. I have to redo the order after all this, but it bothers me that I'm messing up my order of my box because I'm grabbing random issues rather than things in order. Then we have Wildest Westerns. As I said, they really tried to franchise out into different things. Westerns were really big in the early 60s, so they franchised out to trying to do Westerns. Didn't really go that well. They only did 6 issues. We got number 6, which is the last issue, with Marlon Brando. And we got, one sec here. Here's number 1. I thought it was kind of cute. He's got like a, it's just a flesh wound. Paladin, are you hurt? That's very Forrest J. Ackerman. He would do these little things where he'd have these photo covers photos, and then he'd put these little captions on them to make it humorous. He really liked making things funny. And then we got with number 2 with John Wayne. Number 3. And number 4. This looks like Kurtzman or somebody like that for this. Oh, Jack Davis. What am I thinking? Jack Davis, yeah. Jack Davis art. So, okay, one sec here. I gotta put these back in order. Okay, there. And let me grab some more. Oh, and some more cool titles that they did. Screen Thrills. Screen Thrills, I believe, lasted 10 issues. And these are just various issues of Screen Thrills. This was a hard collection to put together. It took me almost 30 years, like 20 years to get it out, actually. From the early 90s till till the late 2000s. And then we got just a whole bunch of Screen Thrills. Some of them are in pretty high grade. So these are all the Screen Thrills. And this is Screen Thrills number 10, which is the last issue. And let's see here. I'll grab some more. Okay, this one's super rare, and this is one of the things that caused me to have like nervousness when it came to tape, because I tape pulled it. So you can see this is Blazing Combat, the anthology, which is basically just reprinting the 4 from the series, but you can see the tape pull at the top. I'm so sad about that. So it just drives me crazy. Yeah, so I can't even look at this one, actually. It really bothers me. And I believe this is Screen Thrills number 1. There's a lot in this box, so one sec here. Let me grab some more. I'll grab these ones. Alright, I'll show one more stack of books. Whatever this is. I'm just grabbing it from the box here. But I'm trying to show you a lot because I really do feel like, you know, people ask me so many times to show my Warren collection. This is just one box out of 30. It's just like, gives you a sense of how big the collection is. So we got, maybe, I'm not sure if it's 30. Maybe 20, actually. One box out of 20. So we got Superheroes on the Scene presents Superheroes. That's a, you know, you can tell this was when Batman and Robin, the TV series, was really popular. And then we got Star Quest. These are all the Warren Presents ones. Star Quest comics. And then we got Meteor, another one of the Warren Presents. And then we have Star Wars Spectacular. It's one of my favorite scenes within the original Star Wars, where you got Chewie versus R2-D2 in the chess game, and C-3PO is like, let the Wookiee win. Very good advice. And then we got like Obi-Wan disarming the shields. And then we got Alien. You know, this photo, actually, when I saw this magazine for the first time, this photo actually really, really disappointed me. Because in the movie, you don't really get to see the aliens in the original movie. You don't really see them like full on. You know, you just see them like bits of them, and they seem really scary. But when you see this photo makes me think, wow, it's just a guy wearing an alien suit. You know, it's like, it doesn't really look that scary. It looks kind of lame, actually, in my opinion. But just a thing, when I saw this, I was like, not so cool anymore. Because, you know, the lighting and stuff in the movie, it's like always dark, and like you can't really see the full alien. So it comes across as much scarier. But this really, really weakens the whole alien effect. Okay, then we got Galactic War comics. And we got Moonraker. There's like a whole bunch of these, so I'm just going to flip through them. And then we got UFO and Alien comics. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So you can see the variety of books that they put out regarding different movies and stuff. They were really movie files. Then they also tried to create their own characters like Rex Havoc. And this is like a very Indiana Jones style character. You can see that, Raiders of the Fantastic. I wonder what that's similar to. It's like, man. Okay, and then we got Sword and Sorcery comics. I mean, beautiful artwork. This is like Vallejo or something like that. I don't know who did it. Or San Julian, maybe one of those two. Just beautiful cover. And then we have Warren Presents Movie Aliens Illustrated, and that's all the different aliens. And then we have Warren Presents Empire Encounters comics. Some of these ones are often fairly cheap. You can find these like a lot of the time in sort of the back issues, dollar bin kind of level. They're not expensive. And then we have Warren Presents Panther. And this is Premier Collector's Edition. Wow. Typically, Warren had print runs of about 70,000. So these were actually fairly high print runs. And then we got Warren Presents Ring of Warlords. And I mean, they have beautiful artwork though. And we have another Warren Presents Strange Stories of Vampire Comics. Nice Dracula cover. And then we have Lord of the Rings. And Warren Presents The Rook. That was another character that they created. And I was actually wondering if this character was associated with the current new character that just came out, the Rook. So, but yeah, the Rook was a time traveler. He had like this rook. It looked like a rook. He would go inside it and go back in the past and have strange adventures. He was kind of like a Wild West kind of guy, but with time travel capabilities. It's kind of fun. And the last one is Dracula 79. Now I showed about half the box. All of this is just half the box. But I figured that's a good sample of half the box, which is 1% of all the boxes that are in that closet. So I hope you enjoyed that. I figured I would overdose on the Warren stuff to give you guys a sense of how crazy the collection is. I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah. Ask again and I'll show a different box next time. Okay, so JSS Brooklyn wrote, did you find any books while in Korea that were located there? Street markets, bookstores, random old action or showcase? Any advice on overseas comic book hunting? Okay, so when I was living in Korea, that is where I bought my Warren collection. And what happened was I was making money and my rent was paid for. And I really didn't have very much food expenses. I was eating a lot of ramyun. I was living very, very frugally. So I had a lot of excess money. So what I would do is I would buy a lot of stuff from eBay. And at the time, eBay, you actually had to send money orders. So I was sending money orders from Korea to some random place in the US or wherever they had these Warren magazines. So, and then the funny part of it all was that I would tell the person that was shipping the books not to send it to Korea, because no way I was going to carry all that stuff back from Korea to Canada. So what I did is I told them to send them all to my parents' house. So when I got home after several years of being abroad, my room was packed with packages, all these packages of all these things that I had ordered, like from the time that I was in Korea. My parents hated it. my parents were so upset with me because they were always getting these packages, these random packages of who knows what. And yeah, it was a thing that I did. I tortured my poor parents. But yeah, so if you think my Stackery unboxings were big, you should have seen when I got back from Korea. It was just like just so many packages. It was really funny. My parents were really upset with me though, because there was customs and stuff, and they were always like, "Oh, you." I was like such a bad kid. Okay, but yeah. So really, I was only buying that stuff. The only thing that I did buy, kind of comic related, was one of the guys that was a dealer. Actually, I sort of became very connected while I was living in Korea with other Warren collectors. And one of the guys that collected Warren also was really into Bruce Lee. He loved Bruce Lee. And so he was willing to trade rare Warren books for Bruce Lee books. So what happened was I bought a bunch of Korean Bruce Lee books and sent them to, he was living in Spain, sent them to Spain in order to get some Spanish edition Warren publishing. And actually, he was the one that helped me get the entire Spanish Warren collection. So actually, thanks to him. So yeah, so that was the only thing that I really bought comic-wise. Really, buying comics in Korea was fairly difficult. They didn't really have anything. There was not like you could buy comics per se. They had manhwa, which is the Korean version of comic books. So really, if you're abroad, buy from eBay, buy from Heritage, buy from places, and then get it shipped to somewhere where you can store it while you're away. That's what I did. I tortured my parents in the process, but that's what I did. Okay, next question comes from K. Munin. Are there any comic characters or series that you avoid buying? What is the longest you've ever put off buying a specific comic? Thanks again for your insight. Okay, so are there any characters I don't really buy? I'm not really a big X-Men fan, or some of the modern stuff I don't really get into. Every so often I like certain X-Men, so that is kind of, there are caveats to that. I do like the movies, so I end up getting the like first appearances and stuff like that. But I don't really read the entire run or anything like that. So that would be something. I don't really buy a lot of the modern books unless they have a good girl cover. That's my exception to that. But there have been books that what I'll do is I put them into my basket on my comic shop, and they will sit there for months. And sometimes they disappear because Steven will buy them, but there are books that I sat on, and not because I don't want them. It's not because I don't want them. It's that I can't afford all the books that are in my cart. So I'll put in some random books that I really like, but I just can't afford them. And there was one book that I just recently bought, but it was in my cart. I want to say like 8 months. I want to say it was in my cart for about 8 months. And what happened was I just couldn't pull the trigger on it. The price was just too high. It was like $1,100, and it was just too much. I just didn't want to spend that much on that one book. I love the book though. I really do. And I was like, there were so many times where I put it into my cart to buy it, and then I'll hold off because, you know, it was just too much money. So it turned out that somebody else just approached me recently that had the book and was willing to actually give me a better price. So I ended up buying a bunch of books from him, and that was one of the books that was included. So I was quite excited about that. So much cheaper than the one that was on my comic shop. So that one that I sort of waited on all that time, in a way it was good that I had waited, because a random collection came my way that I got the book. So that you'll actually see in a future unboxing. So I have to leave it vague because it's a really cool book, but I can't show it until I get it, and I can't tell you about it because then it will ruin the surprise. But that's a good example of a comic that I really did wait on. I really was like so close to pulling the trigger so many times. So yeah, next question comes from Fiddle Chips. Question: if I was a supervillain, my name would be the Qualified. By day, I would be a billionaire playboy. By night, I would snip every Marvel value stamp, and no centerfold would be safe. If you were a supervillain, what would your name be? And what power set would be yours? Would you still be Canadian? I would definitely be Canadian. I'm very proudly Canadian, actually. So if I was a super villain, I'd be the Time Master. So I like the idea of, I never was like into like strength or flight or like some of the other skills that people have. I've always been into the idea of controlling time, like that whole time power, where you could basically rewind time, fast forward time, stop time, just have that full control over time. So for example, let's say, like, I have a tendency of saying the wrong thing. If you ever watch my videos for any length of time, you'll realize I say the wrong thing a lot. It's partly my dyslexia. I say the wrong thing half the time. But I always wanted to be able to go back, just rewind and say, oh, wait, I didn't really mean that. I'm not an idiot. I actually, I wanted to say the right thing. Just rewind the time and then say the right thing. Or, have that control over time so you could fix the mistakes that you make and, just full control over time. And that would be just a superpower. I don't necessarily want to be a villain, but maybe I'd be slightly villainous because I'd be constantly changing the time thing to better myself, rather than, I would try to help people along the way as well. But, I'd probably manipulate time in a weird way that might be against the time variant society or so, something like that, authority. So it'd be kind of one of those things where maybe I'd be that kind of villain. So I'd be the Time Master and manipulate time. I just think that'd be the coolest superpower ever. So that's been sort of a dream of mine. Okay, next question comes from Chi Tin. What comic has been in your collection the longest? Okay, now I've mentioned this comic many, many times. I'm gonna show it again, but this comic has been in my collection as a collection the longest. Now I have other comics that I got before this comic, obviously, but they were not ones that I collected, and there was a difference. Before this comic, I was really just a reader of comics, and not even a reader. I'd look at the pictures. I was a kid. I didn't really, my reading skills were horrible. So I'd basically look at the pictures and maybe read a few of the panels and stuff. I was a terrible reader. But this comic actually is the one that got me into collecting comics and seeing the value of comics. And I've told the story many times. I was a coin collector, and I went into my local local coin shop, and there was a comic on the wall that just appealed to me. It just instantly was love at first sight, because I always liked sort of anthropomorphic characters like ducks and like Donald Duck and Uncle Scrooge and all those characters. This had that, but it also had another thing that, I don't know, I was very young and I liked girls from a really young age. It had a bit of both. It had a bit of that sexiness and this anthropomorphic character and another character. It had Spider-Man. So this is Howard the Duck #1. This was $10 at my coin store, and I saved up my money and bought it. And this became the very first comic that I collected and said, this is my comic collection. This one book. And it wasn't really until much later that I really was able to collect comics, where I'd go out, and in the 90s really was when I fully was able to buy the books that I more or less enjoyed. But this was the one that got it all started. It's Howard the Duck #1. So I'm very, this one has a very sentimental place in my heart because of it being the first comic that I actually collected. Okay. Last question. And it's been a long episode just because I showed lots of Warren. Sorry for that. But last question comes from CJ's Comics and Games. I know you said before that you don't like pen and marker on comic covers. What books do you have that are defaced in the way that otherwise would be nice? I knew I forgot to bring one comic I was going to show. I actually had one that I had in my mind for this very question. Actually, I had two books in my mind. And I've shown them before, but the books are X-Men #1. I was going to show it. Somebody had just written all over it. They wrote 5 cents on it, and they wrote a whole bunch of things on it. I didn't bring it. Imagine I'm holding an X-Men 1. Okay, just imagine. Yeah, they wrote all over it. If it wasn't for that, well, actually, it's still pretty horrible. But if it wasn't for that, it would be a less horrible looking book. I think because of all the writing on it, it really got a really low grade. It's like a 0.5, even though it's a complete book. But yeah, that's that's the one I can think of firsthand. But there was another one that also comes to mind. I have a bunch of Jungle comics. And for some reason, the person that owned these Jungle comics, I believe they're all from the same collection, believed in writing the year all over the cover. But they wouldn't write it just like on the non-interesting parts. They'd write it on the interesting parts. So they would write like 1948 all over the woman's body. Like if there was a Jungle Girl on the cover, they'd write 1948 all over her body. It was the weirdest thing, but I have a bunch of books with that same writing all over the cover. It's really annoying. Actually didn't really impact the grade that much, strangely, because I have one that's graded like that. But I have like maybe 4 or 5 of those in my collection. And I believe it's one person, one annoying kid from the 40s that did it to these books. And actually, I didn't mean to buy 2 of them. I didn't know that was going to be the case, that I was going to get it, because I didn't look at the picture. I saw that there was like a picture, but it was like a placeholder picture. And I was just looking at the grade. I thought, oh, it's going to be fine. And then it had all this writing all over it. It's just so annoying. Yeah, those ones really annoy me. I don't know why this kid wrote all over the year all over the place. But, you know, those are ones that if there's a way to remove it, I've heard that you can actually soak them and the ink will actually float off. But, yeah, it really drives me nuts. So I don't know why kids write on books. I always hate date stamps too. I'm not a big fan of date stamps. I don't like when people interfere with the cover. That's why even when I buy books, generally I'll buy books that are lower grade, to save some money. But I try to buy ones that the front cover, at least the front cover, presents well. I don't care about the spine. I mainly care about how well does the artwork present itself. As long as that's good, I generally will buy the book. Now, there are exceptions to that, but based on price. But for the most part, that's what I do. Yeah. I hope that answers your question. I'm sorry I forgot to bring X-Men 1. I was going to bring it. That was the only book I forgot to bring. I was like, oh, shoot. So yeah. So I hope you enjoyed the answers to the questions. If you have a question that you want to ask me, just put it in the comments below and I will do my best to answer it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks again for everyone for watching. Bye for now.